Hey everybody, today I'm going to show you how to deploy and self-host n8n.io in any cloud server on cloud providers such as AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, DigitalOcean, and much more. You're going to save real money. N8n, as you can see here in the website, the pricing page, the Pro plan starts from 60 euros per month. You will not need to pay that as getting started. Once you scale, it will be fine to give some money to the guys on N8n and hire the cloud plan. But if you're just starting a small business, let's go simple and try to get things running and try it first before you sign up for a big thing. So you've probably seen the documentation here on the N8n website on how to self-host. You might have seen other tutorials on the internet. They all require lots of technical knowledge to on Linux command line or to install Docker. Forget about that. Let's close this. We don't need this. Go back to the N8n website. Click here on the upper right corner. There's this GitHub stars icon. Click this. That takes you to N8n source code. If you're not a tech person, don't be scared. Bear with me for a sec. Here on the upper left corner, you see there's the organization name. Click the n8n.io organization. Click the repositories tab and type hosting. Here it is, n8n hosting. So if you have no specific technical requirements for the scaler, start with Docker Compose. Inside Docker Compose, choose please the with Postgres, open a new tab and just type devopness.com. So Devopness is a platform that can create infrastructure and deploy applications to any cloud only using web browser or mobile browser. So click, you're gonna log into app.devopness.com. Each project in Devopness can have multiple environments, dev, stage, and production. In my case, I'm using a demo environment. In your case, you might want to have an environment separate for each one of your clients or different applications. So you can create other environments and name as you want. I'm going to use the one I have. So in this demo environment, I already connected my AWS, Azure, Google Cloud account. If you don't see that, you're probably going to see an empty box if you're just getting started. Just click here, view all, follow the prompts. In 1 minute, you can connect everything you need. What we need now is an application. So just click view all applications. We can also switch models using the menu and click add application. Since this n8n repository is on GitHub, we select the main branch here. You can just copy this relative path from the main branch. We select GitHub as the source of the application code. You need to connect the GitHub account. It's free. Again, if you don't have a GitHub, just click create new credential here. The reason you have to do that is because Devopness is using the GitHub API and it requires you to use a credential to use the API, right? So you can just copy the whole URL, paste here, and give a name to the application, next. So you have to choose the technology you're going to use to deploy this application. We're going to use Docker, next again. Okay, so now the root directory is where the application code will run. So we have to select the relative path from the main branch here in the URL, which is docker-compose / with Postgres. Paste here. And for the build command, we are not using a Docker file, so I'm going to use Docker Compose. So just choose Docker Compose up -d. This is guaranteed that Devopness and Docker will pull images from the source, from Docker Hub, will update the images automatically, and start the application once the images are ready. Okay, application is created. We now have to do two other things. We have to add configuration files, because if you see again, if you come back to N8n website documentation, self-host, here they mentioned you need environment variables that you can control how N8n is going to behave. And also it says a very important thing here, file-based configuration. You can provide a configuration file for N8n. Without going too technical, I'm going to show you how to get that done. Getting back to the repository, you have two files here that are key for our setup, which is the .env file and the Docker Compose. So let's click first the .env. Just here you have a button to copy the content, or you can select and copy the way you want. I'm going to copy this. Go back to Devopness, gonna add a configuration file and paste the value of the configuration file. And the name has to be, again, the relative path to this file, which is Docker Compose with Postgres /env. So let's just type this as the whole name of the file with the full path. Here in this file, we define the credentials, the username and password for Postgre database. So you see the suggested value here is change user. You should actually change this, right? So for this setup, I already prepared my very secret password that I created here, which is the main user I set as root. I created a very secret password. And for the non-root user, I set the username as Devopness, and the password to make it easy-ish for me to remind of it. I say easy N8N deployment, use Devopness. Okay, confirm. So you have a .m file, that's good. The other and last file that you have to configure is the Docker Compose. Sorry, let me keep the menu here again. Docker Compose. Again, just click here to copy its content. Add configuration file. What's the name again? Relative path from main branch. It's the name. Just one thing here to keep in mind. By default, N8N is supposed to be used with your own web domain. If you want to test before mapping a subdomain to it, you can just set a flag here, which is to disable the secure cookie, which is this flag I just got from the documentation, which is N8N secure cookie false. This is not recommended for production, just if you need to access by IP address, or if you need to access without an SSL certificate. Later on in this video, I'm going to show you how to issue SSL certificates using Devopness, and can get back here and change this to true. For now, let's make it work first, and then we make it better. Let's set N8N secure cookie to false. That's the only change we've done. Click confirm. Cool, we have configuration files, we have an application. Now we need to expose this application on the web. In order to expose this application on the internet, so yourself and other people that work with you can access the application, you have two options. You map a web domain to the application server, or you access by the server IP address. To do this using Devopness, you just have to configure a virtual host. So you can add a virtual host to this application, or you can come here in the menu and see the list of all virtual hosts you have. In our case, when we created a server, a virtual host is already configured here by the IP address. It's not the most convenient way, of course. You want your users and yourself to remember a human-friendly name, such as, I don't know, n8n.yourcompany.com. But for now, just for testing first, let's use this one. You can add it. This is the IP address of the server. Just the IP address. The application, we choose the application that we created. That means when somebody accesses this address on the internet, the content being exposed, being served, is the content of N8N. Since N8N is running locally, we map forward all the traffic to localhost, HTTP localhost, to the N8N port. I don't know the N8N port, no problem, don't have to memorize those things. Come back here to N8N documentation, self-hosting. In the Docker installation, several parts they show here. Okay, so you see they use port 5678. So that's the port we're gonna use here. So no space here, sorry. So all the traffic that comes to this IP address should be forwarded to the container listening locally on port 5678. Next, confirm. Cool. Now you can see the virtual hosts linked to the application. You can just click deploy in the application. Devopness lists the main branch from GitHub. That's the latest one. Let's deploy. I already have a server. If you don't have one, just click create a new server and follow the flow to create a server on your own cloud provider account. Click deploy. Since we chose Docker as the deployment technology, Devopness detected that and is automatically installing and configuring Docker for us. So that means all those steps here in the N8N self-hosting documentation that was mentioned in prerequisites, you should have to install Docker desktop, should log in SSH, run Linux command lines. Forget about that. That's all being done for us. In that click, we just click Devopness deploy, and it's happening there for us. Getting back to Devopness to see how our deployment is going. You see it took a minute, the application Docker now is deploying the virtual host. If you click here, you can see that also Devopness installed NGINX, all good. If you click the virtual host name and you click here, or you can type the address on the URL, but let's click here for convenience. And that's good. And it is running, so you're gonna see the setup. Cool, after entering my personal contact details and password, you're gonna be prompted if you wanna get the paid features for free, which is recommended, so just click send me a free license key, and your license key is on the way. Good, so you see we are here, yay! N8N is working, or it looks like. But every time we install and deploy a new software, it's good to test if those things are actually working. So you might have seen many other tutorials, you're gonna see an error here, connection lost, and that happens usually when we click here. So let's start the test. Let's test the simple AI example workflow. So here you see this has been loaded without any error. You can even try to start the chat. It says to say hi. Let's say hi. Hi. And it starts to run the workflow. So the chat message was received. You can see the green here. This error is not an installation problem. It's just saying that the OpenAI model is not configured, which is true. If you want to use OpenAI, you just have to add credentials on N8N itself. But this is beyond the scope of this video because this is more about the usage. So N8N is deployed and running. Okay? If you don't have a subdomain, if you want to keep using by the IP address, we don't here. But that's probably not the way you want. As you can see, there's a clear warning here from Chrome browser say this is not secure. If you're using by a small team, you're just starting your startup, don't bother, get started, do your testing. But let's say if you are in an advanced stage, you already have your website and domain, want to map that. You have to do two things then, so let's get that done. You need to go to your DNS manager and create a domain. You might use Cloudflare, you might use Namecheap, GoDaddy, it doesn't matter. In my case, I use Route 53 from Amazon. So I'm opening my Amazon web console. And keep in mind, my server's on Azure, and I manage my DNS records on another cloud provider. It's my choice. You don't have to do the same. You do whatever suits you better. So I have my devopness.com, not this one. I want devopness.com hosted zone, and I want to search for, I already created one before recording, which is, what is it? Here. So if I click here, edit record, just have to map it to the IP address of the server, the application, and the virtual host is deployed to. There are many ways to see that, so you can come here to servers in Devopness. Here you can see the servers here, and here you have the IP address. Let's copy this. Oh, it happens, it's the same, so there's nothing I need to do. Could save or cancel here on AWS. Let's copy this domain name. So in Devopness, what we need to do, we need to add another virtual host. So this one is the name of the virtual host, the IP address, and this type of virtual host is accessing by a server IP address. That's not what we want anymore. Just click add virtual host. Now we want a virtual host by the domain name we copied from here. So in my case is demo n8n.devopness.com. In your case is your own company subdomain. Again, we want to link to the application just to serve its content. And as we've done before, we want to map and forward all traffic to the N8N container. We don't have to memorize the port numbers, just go back to N8N documentation. Here they say they use port number 5, 6, 7, 8. No space in between. Next. Confirm. Virtual host is created. Since we are going to expose our own company domain name, it's good to protect that with an SSL certificate. So here in the virtual host, you just click add SSL certificate, or you can do the same here over the menu. Click here. It's going to be issued the certificate for this virtual host. We're using Let's Encrypt, so it's 100% free, have no cost for that, and your N8N installation is going to be protected. And yes, so we are here, SSL certificate. You see the lock is still inactive because it haven't been deployed. But there's one more last step before we do that. The virtual host, we click the application. If you guys remember, in the beginning of this video, we said when creating the Docker Compose configuration file that we can enable or disable the secure cookie, which would allow us or not to log into N8N without using an SSL certificate. So at the moment we have IP address, not secure. We want to change this to web domain and secure. So I'm going to switch from false to true, like we want the secure cookies. If you remove this line, it has the same effect, but I'll keep this for the record to make it very explicit. We really want to enable secure cookies because that's the recommended approach by the N8N team. You confirm this change in the application configuration file. And the last step is to deploy the application again, so we can get all the changes we done in the configuration files sent to the server, in my case Microsoft Azure. And also one interesting thing when you're deploying applications using Devopness is that it knows as the application is linked to the virtual host, we configure that virtual host to have this virtual host to have an SSL certificate associated to it. So during the application deployment, the SSL is going to be issued, and it might take us a few seconds to see here the SSL certificate. It's currently pending state. Let's wait a little bit. So now the deployment of our SSL certificate is in progress. Once this is complete, we will be able to access N8N in this domain. And also you can notice that Devopness will configure a cron job to automatically renew the certificate for you every once a month or before it expires, so your site remains secure. So let's click the virtual host, click its name. You could type the name, but if you click here we are. We can log in again. In my case, that's my credential, get my password. We are now using N8N in our own domain, our own subdomain, and it is secure. One last thing, just for housekeeping, you can see that we can still access N8N by the IP address not secure. Since we turned off the turned on the N8N security cookie, it was false, we set it back to true. We can access the IP address, but now when accessing by the IP address, you're going to see this error, which is N8N recommending that should not be the way to do it. This, on the other hand, is the way to do it. If you don't want, not even your users when accessing by the IP address, to see this, it's quite simple. Just come to Devopness. You see you have multiple virtual hosts associated with the same application. If you come back here to application, our N8N application, see how many virtual hosts this application has. There are 2. Clicking here in the tab, virtual host tab, you see like there are 2 ways to access the same application. One by this domain, one by this IP address. If your use case is more advanced, you can have multiple different domains accessing the same application. You can mix and match. The thing is, like, this platform can help you on that. In our case, we really don't need this anymore, so I'm gonna just confirm that I want to remove this one. The list of virtual hosts, and you access the existing one and click. It's still accessible and secure. I know it was a longish tutorial, but I hope I covered how to start from scratch, deploy to any server and any cloud provider. Remember, if you, in this tutorial I didn't show how to create the server itself, but it's a 2 minutes operation. Just check the link below. There are links in our videos. And if you have any questions here from Devopness itself, you can just click on your profile in the upper right corner and click join our Discord. Here we're gonna find, you can talk to our team, you can talk to the community, you can ask for help for anything related to cloud provision, self-hosting, application deployment, CI/CD, Docker, Kubernetes. It's your space to talk anything related and supported by Devopness. So you're more than welcome to join. It's free. And yeah, happy deployment and happy workflow automation with N8N. Thanks for watching.